There are still some holes that need to be plugged on the Yankees roster. We'll talk about that next, coming up on Locked On Yankees.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. With me, as usual, my co-host, Brian McKeon. Brian, can you do us a favor?
What's up?
Quickly, explain to the audience why you were chosen as a co-host of the show, what your experience is.
I was a sports radio host. I don't know where you're going with this.
Tell everyone where you used to work.
WFAN.
Okay. I wrote some pieces on Baseball Prospectus, ESPN. I wrote a chapter in the Hardball Times in 2017. We just have to give our credentials sometimes because people are new to the show and they wonder, why are these two hosting a Yankee podcast? So I figured, let's tell the people what they want to know.
Yeah,
right?
I covered the Yankees for WFAN. I hosted for 2 years. I worked there for 7.
Yeah. So we have enough experience to be hosting this show, just so you guys all know. Before we get started, don't forget, subscribe to Locked On Yankees on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like our videos, hit the bell so you know when they go up, and also comment, because that helps too. On today's show, is there a pro-Yankees bias when it comes to Hall of Fame voting? A Hall of Famer seems to think so. So we're going to discuss that. And we'll chat with you guys later on in the show. But first, the Yankees have some holes to fill still before spring training starts. They're not the only team, but they're the team we cover. So we're going to be talking about it.
Yeah, definitely not the only team, but there definitely are pieces that need to be figured out. And it seems like they're waiting the market just like some players are being waited on, right? Like, they're taking their time when it comes to figuring out what they're going to do at second base, when it comes to figuring out how they're going to clear the Marcus Stroman salary. And I think me and you have both tried to divvy up ways of how they can do it. And I've gotten to the point where I'm not sure what they're doing with the infield, but I'm kind of sure of what they're going to do with Marcus Stroman. So I can go into that part first.
Okay.
I think Marcus Stroman's going to be traded for some BS type of piece just to clear salary.
Right.
It feels like that's where it's headed. It doesn't feel like it's a market where teams are going to be willing to take on salary to improve themselves or to help you improve yourself. So I don't think that's going to happen. Maybe they get a reliever that no one's heard of that has a great spin rate that they think they can fix. That feels like the path they go on. That's usually the path they wind up going on, kind of like a Mark Leiter Jr. route that they'll go on. Get a player who's got a really good spin rate, who has a good track record of having good stuff that they think that's got a 70 ERA over the last 2 years that Matt Blake is convinced that he can fix. And maybe this offseason, Matt Blake's been taking time to go through people's bullpens and see, I like this guy. And then you can think about dumping Marcus Stroman off to whatever franchise is willing to take on that salary. That's what it feels like is going to happen with him. I don't think there's room for Marcus Stroman on this rotation. I don't think there's a motivation to keep him either. So Marcus Stroman, I think, is gone. The question that I have is there's a lot of options, which is good, but what they wind up doing with the second and third base scenario.
Yeah, because at this point, they're like 2 weeks before people start showing up for spring training and 3 weeks away from everything really getting going and only a month until games start for spring training. And, time's a ticking. And you thought that maybe at the beginning of the offseason, there was more of a plan for what they were going to do with second and third base. And so far, what they've done is let Gleyber Torres go to the Tigers. And other than that, there hasn't been much movement. There hasn't been much discussion other than, maybe they'll try DJ LeMahieu at third. Maybe they'll shift Jazz Chisholm to second because that's his more natural position. But I think there needs to be a more definitive thing happening there. I don't think I don't like that it's so up in the air. I don't like that, maybe we'll do this and maybe, but there shouldn't be maybes. There should be definitive answers as to what you're doing with second and third base and not, let's give this guy a chance thing. If you want to make it back to the playoffs, if you want to make it back to the World Series, and if you want your defense to be better, you have to get people who know how to play these positions and who can stay in games and play and not get hurt every 5 seconds like DJ LeMahieu. So I don't know. I just don't like that it's so up in the air and that nothing is definitive yet. It's January 23rd. When are we going to know what they're doing with the infield? Because the infield was a big problem in the World Series, and they haven't
All
done that
season.
much to fix it. Yes, but I
All
mean,
season.
especially it was like all season, and then everyone got to see the problems that we saw all season. It was on a national, well, worldwide stage during the World Series, and everyone saw what we experienced during the season watching that infield play.
What's crazy to me is the fact that their worst position all year was second base, and it's the position that they've least prioritized going into next season.
Yeah.
It does feel like, and I want to get your sense on this too, it does feel like from the people that we've spoken to in our interview series and along with the insights that we have with the organization, it feels like they are more prioritizing keeping Jazz at second base. It feels like they'll put him at third if they need to, but they'd rather him play his natural position. I do think Rogers is a possibility. I do think there's I still think Arenado is a possibility. As much as they're going to tell you that they're out on him, I don't think that's true. And here's another thing too, Stacey, and I like for people to kind of keep this in when they think about the Nolan Arenado stuff. If the Yankees were truly out on a player, they would not admit that publicly. They would not tell you publicly. If they were looking towards trading for Nolan Arenado, they would not publicly be like, yeah, we're not interested. They would also not publicly say we are interested. They would keep it neutral, which is kind of what the Yankees have done. The only place that you've seen reports on Nolan Arenado are from reporters. So, and I still think there could be a play where, they're going to allow the Cardinals, which more than likely will fall apart at some point this year. They're going to allow the Cardinals to fall apart, have a bad record, and then see if Nolan Arenado wants to play for a playoff team.
Right.
And then he may lift a no-trade clause to go there. You don't know. And also, at that point, the Cardinals become more desperate to trade him because he's either not liking what's going on in St. Louis, or he's an unhappy player, or they want to lose more games. And there may be a motivation then to trade Nolan Arenado more. So, I do think for teams like the Yankees, where their path is so clear to the World Series, their goal is to the World Series, and they're a prohibitive favorite in the American League, their deadline per se is not February 14th, is not March 27th. Their deadline is July 31st, or whatever day that the deadline exactly lands on this year. That's their true deadline to figuring out the whole roster.
Here's a question.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be okay with the Yankees going into opening day with DJ LeMahieu at third, Jazz at second, and if things don't work out with DJ, maybe they bring up Peraza, and then they go for someone like Arenado at the trade deadline? Do you think they can cruise for that long or coast for that long with it being iffy until the trade deadline?
I don't think so, no. I don't know who the player is that they'll acquire before the season. It does feel like before the season, they're going to acquire a lesser-known player at this point to play third base, but it's a surefire guy that stays healthy, hits 240, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they can. I don't think they can afford to go into the season with DJ LeMahieu being the expectation, because we've said this before. I don't know if he's getting out of spring training. We don't know what his health is. He didn't get surgery this offseason, so whatever lingering issue he had in his foot is still there. And it can still pop up. He, like you said before, he's one foul tip off his foot away from his career being over. So I don't know if you can really afford to have him go through, because you're not really just asking, Stacey, for him to give you April through June or April through July. You're asking him to give you all of March and all of February too in spring training, and those are still at bats where you're still going full force. Those are still innings at third base that you're still on your feet. Those are still training sessions that you're going through. Yeah, I know we count the season as late March to July, but there's a lot of training that goes on in that mid-February. I'm not saying to you, I'm saying to our listeners.
No, yeah.
There's a lot of training that goes on from mid-February to April, and that's a lot of strain on your body. And I don't even know if he can handle that anymore. I don't. And that's not a diss at DJ LeMahieu. People's careers end when they end. But I don't know if he can. And me not knowing is one thing, but the Yankees genuinely don't know if he can get through that or not. I mean, no one really knows that or not. Neither does DJ LeMahieu. So I don't think the Yankees can afford to go into the season. Maybe the goal is Peraza. Maybe the goal is Peraza, and we'll piece it together and we'll figure it out as the season goes. And if that's not working for us, then we'll acquire someone. Maybe that is the plan. But if the plan is going to be strictly DJ LeMahieu, I don't think you can afford to do that.
Right. Again, I just want to know. I just want to know going into spring training. I know.
What do you think happens? What do you think happens with Stroman though? Because I didn't get your take on that.
I don't know. I really don't know, because with the way this offseason has gone, with the way that some guys are still floating out there and haven't been signed, who's going to want to get Marcus Stroman when he's, he's barely a regular season pitcher at this point. You know what I mean? Like, he's good for, how many starts was he good for in 2024? And then he just didn't do anything for the team. And I don't mean to knock him for that. Stuff happens, but is it even worth it? Like, is a team really going to look at him and think, oh, this guy's going to help? And are they going to want to take on? Right.
A contender, no, but a team that needs to just fill a pitcher in the middle, that could be a thing. A gut check. Is he on the starting rotation at the start of the year or no?
No. I have a better chance of being on the starting rotation or in the starting rotation than Marcus Stroman. No offense, but yeah. And I could throw about 30 miles an hour, maybe. I haven't tried, but
good curveball though, from what I've heard.
Yeah. Hey, I used to play wiffle ball with my boy neighbors because I was a tomboy growing up, and I did have some movement on my
curveball.
Yeah.
Glad to hear.
Yeah. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notification so you know when our videos go up. You can also join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. The link is in the description. You'll get text from us. You can text us questions. We send out roster moves. We send out trades. We send out the lineups during the season, just because I like everyone's reactions to certain lineups, because you know how that goes during the regular season for the Yankees. And there's a 14-day free trial. You basically join this so you don't have to check social media all the time for all of this news. So coming up next, Chipper Jones had something interesting to say about a Yankee bias having to do with the Hall of Fame. We'll discuss that next. I love going to live events. I like going to concerts and baseball games the most. And when I want to go to either one of those things, I go to Gametime. Gametime has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Gametime Picks. This feature filters out the fluff, and it only shows you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I was looking for tickets for an upcoming concert using the Gametime app, and with Gametime Picks, I found amazing deals. It's at a place I've never been to, so I was looking at how the seats were oriented, and it was really great. And the super deal was particularly impressive. It offers great seats at unbeatable prices, and the all-in pricing shows you the total cost up front, and there are no surprise fees at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB. LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. Thanks again for making Locked On Yankees your first listen. Remember, every Friday is Fan Mail Friday, and that means tomorrow. You can leave questions underneath our videos during the week, or you can join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club and get top priority every Friday for Fan Mail Friday. The link is in the description. Okay, so this struck me funny. I didn't know about this. Apparently, Chipper Jones tweeted this on the 21st. It is now the 23rd. But he said this, and I know not everyone is on social media or Twitter, which is why I didn't see it, because I haven't posted on Twitter in over 2 months. But this is what Chipper Jones said about Andrew Jones's Hall of Fame candidacy. I want to ask all the Hall of Fame voters one question. If Andrew Jones plays for the New York Yankees for 15 years with 10 gold gloves, 400 home runs, 1,300 RBIs, is he a Hall of Famer? Let me answer that for you. First ballot. Okay. Here's the thing. Derek Jeter and Mariano Rivera are the only two Yankees who played with the dynasty and who played for all those years, primarily for the Yankees, who have made the Hall of Fame in the last 20 years. So it's not like everyone who plays for the Yankees automatically gets into the Hall of Fame. Hi, A-Rod. He's still stuck outside. Like, there are a bunch of guys. Bernie Williams didn't make it. Jorge Posada didn't make it. Like, there are a bunch of guys that did not make the, and then people are also going back to years ago. Like, well, Phil Rizzuto had these numbers, and they're not thinking compared to these guys.
Don Mattingly.
It was different 50 years ago.
German Monson.
When guys were getting into the Hall of Fame. So no, I don't, Yeah, but I don't know why Andrew Jones isn't getting it because those numbers are
Roger
incredible.
Maris.
Yeah, those numbers
Sorry,
are
I'm just
incredible.
calling out Yankees who haven't made the Hall of Fame.
Right. I mean,
Because
there's a
this is
bunch
the
of
point.
them. Yeah, there's a bunch of them.
Maybe if Andrew Jones, I do think championships has something to do with getting into the Hall of Fame. And maybe if Andrew Jones played for the Yankees and won 5 World Series rather than 1 Japanese World Series in 2013, he might be a Hall of Famer too. If he had iconic playoff moments and didn't disappear in the postseason for the Atlanta Braves, maybe then he would have been a Hall of Famer. I'm just saying. And his numbers are great. I'm not denying that. He was a great fielder, a lot of RBIs, really good player. But I gave you the point yesterday. I don't think Carlos Beltran's a Hall of Famer, and his numbers are worse than Andrew Jones. They're very similar to Andrew Jones. And I don't think Carlos Beltran's a Hall of Famer. I think it's the Hall of Fame, the Hall of the greatest players to ever play the game. I don't think Andrew Jones is one of those players. I think he's a really, really, really good player. That, I think, is the line of where you're sitting outside. But the argument of if he played for the Yankees, like you said, the only 2 dynasty guys that are in the Hall of Fame are surefire, one of the most surefire Hall of Famers you could ever have in the history of the sport. Derek Jeter's like 7th all time in hits. He's got some of the most iconic moments in big times ever. Mariano Rivera has the most saves of all time, and you likely will never see a player that goes on a run with ERAs as low as him for the amount of time that he did it. So I don't know if that argument is really fair because there's a lot of great Yankees from that era that didn't sniff the Hall of Fame.
Right,
they were one and done. All of them.
And they were a lot of them were one and done on the ballot. Like some guys kind of stuck around because they were getting like 12 to 15% of the vote, but they never got higher than that. And then there were some guys who just were there once and done.
And those guys weren't Hall of Fame. Now, Andrew Jones is absolutely an Atlanta Brave Hall of Famer, just like Andy Pettitte is absolutely a New York Yankee Hall of Famer. Those are different arguments, but to put them in Cooperstown, again, Stacey, if there was truly a Yankee bias on guys getting into the Hall of Fame because they're New York Yankees, Roger Maris would be in the Hall of Fame. He would, because he broke the home run record and held it forever as a New York Yankee. He's not in the Hall of Fame. There's a lot of guys that have played for the Yankees, like Phil Rizzuto, that aren't in the Hall of Fame. So you can't give me that argument of who's not in the Hall of Fame, Stacey, that should be in the Hall of Fame but isn't in the Hall of Fame? Don Mattingly, one of the best fielding first basemen in the history of the sport, is not in the Hall of Fame. So you can give me how great of a fielder Andrew Jones was, and I'm not denying that he wasn't a great fielder. But Don Mattingly is undebatably one of the greatest fielding first basemen in the history of the sport, disregarding his Hall of Fame bat, and Don Mattingly's not in the Hall of Fame. It's not a birthright because you're a New York Yankee to walk into Cooperstown. I know it may seem like that for some people, but it's not. And if Chipper Jones wants to, I feel like he's using the Yankee argument because of CeCe getting it on the first ballot, but we can go after that one too. We read the numbers yesterday. We gave the defense yesterday. CeCe Sabathia is literally one of 3 lefty pitchers ever to have 3,000 strikeouts. Like that is an iconic number. In today's era, CeCe Sabathia had 250 wins. That is not the same thing as what Andrew Jones does. And CeCe Sabathia was an ace on a pitching staff for a team that won a World Series, something Andrew Jones never did. I can give you all the arguments you want, but Stacey, it's not a walk-in birthright if you're a New York Yankee to get into the Hall of Fame. It's just not. And the only 2 Yankees that got in from that era were outstanding, no doubter Hall of Famers. And we debated a few weeks ago on Andy Pettitte. We had that debate. We debated on Yankee players before getting in or not. And whether you think they deserve to be in or I think they don't deserve to be in, there still is that debate going on. There's no debate on Derek Jeter or Mariano Rivera.
No.
There's no argument. So, you want to give a reason out there for Chipper Jones on Andrew Jones should be in the Hall of Fame? Wonderful. Give me your take. But to say that if he was a Yankee, he'd be in, that's just absurd.
Right. I mean, Chipper got in on the first ballot, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he wasn't a Yankee. I mean, he had really good numbers, but it's just funny. Why are you bitching and moaning about this with CeCe Sabathia getting in? It's not like a borderline guy is getting in. It's CeCe Sabathia. Give me a break, Larry.
And again, I think winning, many people debate this back and forth, but I do think a winning track record does boost your case. Now, I will say this was a classic argument I always had with my father, that my dad believed you needed to win a championship to get into the Hall of Fame because the essence and the goal in all of sports was to win. And I sort of got his notion, but I also disagreed with it. I think that winning a championship can certainly boost your status. It can certainly help you if you're a close guy and you've won one. Andrew Jones. That might get you into the Hall of Fame. That could boost you into the Hall of Fame, but I don't think it needs to be a prerequisite to get into the Hall of Fame. I always used to give this argument with Joe Namath, because if you look at Joe Namath's numbers, his numbers are not Hall of Fame worthy at all. And I know a lot of Jet fans in the chat are probably going to get mad at me for saying that, but go do yourself a favor, go on Football Reference and go look at his numbers. They're not Hall of Fame worthy at all. Winning a Super Bowl, I think, boosts you and gets you into that Hall of Fame. So I'll say that, Stacey. If Andrew Jones has, not 0, but 5 championships playing for the Yankee dynasty, like Pettit and like Jeter and Mariano had, maybe then Andrew Jones sneaks into the Hall of Fame. But Andrew Jones instead has 0 championships, never won a single title. So, we can sit here and complain all we want, but I'm going to disagree with him. I said this before the ballot even came out. I think Andrew Jones is one of those guys that's right on the border, but not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I just thought that was funny. Let us know in the chat what you think about what Chipper Jones said, and if you think it's as silly as I did, because I think it's silly. So coming up next, we'll chat with you, but there was something I wanted to talk about yesterday that I completely forgot to talk about yesterday. So we're going to talk about it in segment 3. I'm going to spring this on Brian in segment 3. I apologize in advance.
So, guys, in sports, having a winning strategy is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the Olympics. And that same strategy has to go for a life. Having a strategy like life insurance from SelectQuote, that can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. SelectQuote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What sets SelectQuote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fits-all policies, their licensed agents tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. If you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage of up to $5 million with no medical exam required. It's more affordable than you think. You can even get up to $1 million in coverage for as low as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/locked-on. Go to selectquote.com/locked-on. Selectquote.com/locked-on to get started. That's selectquote.com/locked-on. They shop, you save.
Oh, there we go.
Stacey, you know how to cater to what makes me comfortable, because I can't stand being on the left side. So
I know
this works for me. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I know it's too quick of a time for me to be able to switch everything when you're on screen by yourself. I got to figure this out. I got to finagle everything. So I had mentioned this on yesterday's show, and then we never got to it. So I put a graphic up in our rundown. So scroll down, you'll see it, and I'm going to put it up for everyone else. The notable candidates for the 2026, like the first time candidates for the Hall of Fame in 2026, because I think Andrew Jones and Carlos Beltran are getting in next year, because look at this. No offense to the guys who are in this, but let's take a look at who's here. I did this last minute. This is why we don't have the fancy graphics behind it, and you can still see my face while we're doing this. Okay, so you can see on the screen if you're watching, and if you're listening, we will read them off to you, but there is Ryan Braun, Sin-Soo Choo, Edwin Encarnacion, and everydayers and old-timers will know that I really want to play the sound I used to play for him, but I can't. Gio Gonzalez, Alex Gordon, Cole Hamels, Matt Kemp, Howie Kendrick, Nick Markakis, Daniel Murphy, Hunter Pence, Rick Porcello, and Neil Walker.
I will say at first, Stacey, this makes me feel unbelievably old. I'm sure you've gone through this before, but this is my first time going through it, of knowing, like, remembering when players got called up, or remembering when it was a big story, they signed their big extension and now they're eligible for the Hall of Fame. It makes me feel
welcome.
Ancient. I got to look at Encarnacion's numbers, because he might be a borderline guy. I'm not sure. I don't remember it exactly. I don't know if I think he might have got to 500 home runs. So he might be a borderline guy. Ryan Braun, too, might have better numbers than I remember, but he's a steroid guy, so I don't think he's going to get in.
And especially not with the stuff that happened with his.
Yeah, because there was a big public ideal. Sin-Soo Choo, definitely not. Gio Gonzalez, no. Alex Gordon, nice player, definitely not a Hall of Famer. Cole Hamels is an interesting one. Played on a lot of winning teams. Probably accumulated a lot of good numbers because he played for a while. These guys, though, Matt Kemp, Howie Kendrick, Neil Walker, Hunter Pence, Daniel Murphy, Nick Markakis, absolutely not. Rick Porcello, I don't think so, but did have a 21-win season, a Cy Young Award. Not a Hall of Famer, though. Really, really poor class. Really poor class.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I wanted to mention that yesterday, and then because I couldn't find the graphic, and then someone posted it this morning, and I thought, okay, let me bring this up. You know what? I do have to do this for our old timers. If you've been listening since 2018, you know that I used to love to do this whenever I mentioned Edwin Encarnacion, because he did play for the Yankees for a brief, wonderful time.
44 games.
I had to. I used to play that all the time when we were audio only, every time I mentioned his name. And I had friends who would send me messages and be like, I love when you do that. Every time you do that, it's so funny. Because, with audio podcasts, it was easier to put goofy sounds in before we were on YouTube. But Edwin Encarnacion, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to do that.
260 batting average, 350 on base, 424 homers, 1,261 RBIs. Not a Hall of Famer. Sorry, Encarnacion.
Maybe they could put his parrot into the...
3-time All-Star. No other significant achievements in his career. Yeah, not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Gotta be an obvious one for me. Yeah, none of these guys I think are Hall of Famers. There might not be a single one on the list. Maybe Cole Hamels. I'm not sure on that one.
I think Cole Hamels might be one of those guys who sticks around. Like, he's not going to get like 50% of the vote the first time, but he'll definitely get over 5%. I could see that.
Yeah, Cole Hamels. I don't even know, Stacey. 163 career wins, 3.43 career ERA. That's really good. Yeah, I don't know if he winds up getting in either. Did win a World Series in 2008, 4-time All-Star, won the World Series MVP, no Cy Youngs, 163 wins. I don't know if he sneaks in either.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I don't think he's going to fall off right away. Out of all those guys,
I mean,
there are a bunch of guys there
left.
Yeah, like there are a bunch of guys there who are not going to sniff it.
No, I mean, most of them, to be honest with you, majority of the ballot. And these are the significant names. There's other names that are, I'm sure, coming on the ballot too, but is Brett Gardner up yet?
Next year, I believe.
Okay. Yeah.
Not next year. I mean, 2027, I believe, is when Brett Gardner is up.
He's not getting it either.
That's crazy.
Yeah, wild. This list is not impressive at all.
No.
But this happens throughout years, though. You do see this a lot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I will say Howie Kendrick should have a place in the Hall of Fame. Maybe not like a plaque in the Hall of Fame, but just for that home run against Houston in 2019. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially, I think that was a pinch hit appearance too, right? I think he pinch
hit. And against the Dodgers too, right? Earlier in that playoff series, he helped
that playoff run was iconic. I know we have distaste for him, but that Juan Soto home run too off Verlander was unbelievable too.
Oh yeah.
That playoff run was, and Juan Soto was like 19 years old during that.
He was a baby. He was so young. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just laughing at some of these names though. Hey, Neil Walker had a big walk-off home run for the Yankees when he was with the Yankees.
Former Yankee great, former Met great too, Neil Walker, yeah.
Yeah, there's some, let's see. So Encarnacion played for us. Walker played. No one else out of all these guys, right?
No one else, no.
No.
Yeah, wild list.
And Nick Markakis, my dad used to love saying his name because he's Greek and he would always say it in a weird Greek accent, even though my dad, he knew Greek, but he would talk to our Greek relatives on the phone in Greeklish because he didn't remember all of the Greek that he learned in Greek school. So yeah.
Is that the official name of the language, Greeklish?
Well, Greek and English mixed together because he didn't know.
I got that, but I'm saying, is that official?
Yeah, like Spanglish, Greeklish.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, he would always be like, and him and Moustakakis. He loved whenever a Greek guy showed up in MLB, so he would just love repeating their names. I saw a question for us.
Sure.
Where is it? Where did it go? Asia, where did that question go? Are you guys football fans? Yeah. Yes. Brian likes the Jets. I grew up rooting for, well, okay. I I liked the 49ers when I was young because I loved Joe Montana, and that caused strife in the house. But I would also pull for the Giants in the years that the 49ers weren't in it. Not that there were many, because the 49ers were great when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
But that one playoff game where they who was it? Was it Mark Bavaro that nearly killed Joe Montana all those years ago? My brother and my father were like, oh, and I'm like, oh my God, he's dead. So it was an interesting time. But now that I'm older, it's Giants. I'm Giants, Knicks, Rangers, Yankees. That's
very basic.
Allegiance.
I grew up going to.
It's not basic. That's just how.
That is as basic as it gets. Giants,
but it's not
Giants,
basic.
Yankees, Knicks, Rangers is the most standard New York sports fan there is.
Well, yeah, because that's what my dad was. Because
but it's still.
But thank God, because he didn't stray away from the Giants when they were awful in the 70s. That's why you see so many Cowboys fans in New York.
Well, because they were good in the 70s.
They all strayed away from the Giants when they were awful in the late 70s, early 80s. And they were front runners. And then they just remained Cowboys fans their whole lives.
They're also, a lot of them are Laker fans rooting for Magic Johnson and stuff. I grew up a Jets fan. My dad had season tickets, so I went up going a lot most Sundays and just wound up being a Jets fan. I'd say now in my adult life, though, I pull for the Jets, but I don't let the Jets ruin my Sunday. When the Jets lose on Sunday...
if you did, you'd be ruined all the time.
True.
We are. Because, who wants to be a Giants fan either? It's awful. Football in New York is terrible.
For the Jets, but I do love football. Sundays are a religious experience for me, and not because of church. I love football so much. The Super Bowl is the most important holiday of the year for me, honestly. So I will say my two teams, though, are Yankees and Rangers. Those are the two teams that when they lose it, my day is ruined. So, yeah.
Yeah, mine's just really Yankees, and not until the playoffs, really. Like the Knicks, it doesn't bother me till the playoffs when they lose. You were
bothered last year with the Knicks in the playoffs, I remember, though.
I was what?
You were bothered last year with the Knicks in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah. I can't help it. I don't know. They haven't won since the year before I was born. I think I told the story. We'll do this quickly and then we'll end the show. Sure. My dad was born in 1941. The Rangers last won their Stanley Cup in 1940, right? Yep. So then they won in 94 when my dad was 53. So I joked with my dad, like the year before he died. I said, hey, the Knicks last won in 73, the year before I was born. So maybe by the time I'm 53, the Knicks will win a championship. And my dad, this was more than 10 years ago now, because he's been gone 10 years. He's like, the Knicks aren't winning anything. Not with Dolan as the owner.
They're getting closer. I don't know if they're there yet, but they're getting closer. So maybe you'll get one.
Wouldn't that be amazing, though? That would be kind of crazy, though, if that did happen.
Yeah. It would be creepy, but stuff like that happens all the time. So
yeah. And then I could be like, told you, Gus.
Literally, yeah.
So thank you guys for joining us today at 4:30. It's now 5:00 on a Thursday in the middle of winter, although it is getting a little warmer, thank goodness, because the beginning of the week was brutal. At least, you can go outside and not want to die in the cold. So
for sure.
So anyway, again, thank you guys for joining us live. We'll be live again tomorrow for Fan Mail Friday, correct?
Yeah, we will.
Yeah. So
not
get
sure
those questions. We're not sure of the time. We'll let you guys know. Leave your questions down below. Just put Fan Mail Friday and ask the question, and make it anything. Make it anything you want to ask us about. It could be baseball.
Open for business.
But we're open for anything because, again, it's the dead of winter. Baseball is a few weeks from starting, and we think it could be fun if you asked us personal questions. So thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. For your second listen, you can find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings you a daily blend of humor and baseball. He keeps you updated on every rumor and story throughout the offseason. You can find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. So that will do it for this live edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias.
And I'm Brian McKeon. We'll catch you guys tomorrow.